First time I met Novak Djokovic, 2014. It was the night before he was playing Rafael Nadal at the Miami Open.
Both world-class tennis players.
I didn't know much about tennis at the time. That identity of nothing can stop me gave me a certain level of confidence because I knew who he was, right? To go to him with complete bravery, like, I didn't need you to like me, but I know how to help you win, right? And the first thing I said to him, I looked at him and I said, "You're never going to be as good as Rafael Nadal." And he looked at me like this.
What are you talking about?
And then I went on and said, "You're never going to be as good as Rafael Nadal at being Rafael Nadal." The key is to know who you are at your best, and let's wire that in.
Like, how do you even know that? I mean, I've had many clients, thousands of clients. I remember there was an accountant that came to us for he wanted to launch his own AI agency using our team. And we started asking him about accounting, and he was very good at it. But he told us, and he started crying. He was like, "Dude, I've been in this profession for, I think it was like 26 years. And I've never wanted to be in this profession. I only did it because my dad was an accountant and I had pressure from my family." And that gave me goosebumps because I realized, I was like, man, this guy spent 26 of his years of his life, which is maybe half of his life, on something that it wasn't even him.
Yeah.
That's twisted, man.
If the dashboard of your car doesn't tell you when your gas is low, you're in trouble. If you don't get these symptoms, that's when you're in trouble. And so when people are unfulfilled or they're having anxiety or they're having depression, this is their system saying, "I'm not where I need to be."
I mean, you've coached up Jamie Foxx, NFL players. We went through the list. Florida Panthers. I'm sure there's a lot of more very high level people.
One was with a world-class fighter. His name's Alberto Puello, boxer. And I was brought into his training camp because he was about to fight for the world championship. Here we are, the night of the fight. And it's in the Berkeley Center in New York. And we're walking down the aisle. And I look at him and I say, "Hey man, how you feeling?" And his response to me was, "I'm freaked out." That was amazing that he told me that, because now I know exactly where he is. If I'm the GPS, I know where he wants to go. I need to know where he is. And I quickly took him through a process within 50 feet of the ring to shift. All I did.
Wait, this is like with the cameras and all, like
everything live right on us. Right on us.
Oh. Wow.
That's how simple it is. We can shift. When you go through your life and you have all these experiences, it floods your mind. You're constantly overthinking. You're worried about your past. You're worried about the future, right? You don't have the clarity. And in order to create, we need to have a regulated nervous system. We need to have a clear mind. And so we overcompensate. We end up working harder because we think we need to.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast. Today, I am so excited to bring you the man the world champions call when pressure gets too expensive. This man has worked with NFL stars. He shared the stage with Bill Gates. He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. He's coached NFL players. He's coached movie stars like Jamie Foxx. And he's even coached the Florida Panthers, the world champion hockey team. And also, he's worked with many nine-figure startups. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're someone who's been through all different types, of experiences in life. You've worked with some amazing people. Who are you deep down?
I'm just someone who wants to discover who they are. And as time goes on, I get to learn more about myself. I grew up not believing in myself. And because I didn't believe in myself, I went through many years of suffering, from being incarcerated as a child through 15 years of drug addiction. And now I'm at a place where I enjoy myself. I enjoy my life. I enjoy my friendships. And everything that I do is something that I believe has purpose, but I'm also passionate about.
Wow, amazing. I know you're very, very interested in regards to like how the brain works, how, the nervous system is connected. You're also a neuroscientist, right? So talk to us a little bit about what even got you interested into that. Was it the harsh, you said upbringing was a little rough?
It was a little rough.
Okay. Was it that? What really motivated you into getting into neuroscience, specifically like, the nervous system and stuff?
Well, I went through this belief system. I believed growing up that I wasn't intelligent, and I believed that nobody cared about me. And that caused me to see the world and see myself through that lens. So even when people actually did care about me, I would push them away. And I wouldn't try because I felt like, what's the point of trying? And ultimately, it got to a point where I was doing what I love. I was working with kids who were incarcerated. And I realized I was pretty good at it. So good that I was getting a lot of national attention. And I got to the point where it was like, wow, people are seeing good things in me. Why can't I see it in myself? And I took some time away to discover who I am and what I want, why I want it. And I began to learn why I was holding myself back, how I was holding myself back, and how I can get out of that pattern.
Yeah. So in regard, if you don't mind me asking, I want to talk a little bit about, the kind of like the addiction part. Where did that come from? Was it a matter of the environment? Was it like you were trying to run away from something that was maybe, that you didn't want to face? Or was it, what was it exactly?
Yeah. Well, I was probably amongst my friends the last person to use drugs. And then I went through college and I met somebody who was the vice president of a multi-billion-dollar company. And this person would mentor me twice a week at no cost. And as he was mentoring me, we would use ketamine. And as we would use ketamine, I would start to build confidence in, wow, this substance is helping me. And then we would couple it with cocaine.
Wow.
And I just had this like random belief that if this guy who's this successful is willing to put it in front of me, there's nothing wrong with it. And it got to the point where I just started abusing it until it took over my life.
Interesting. So when along the lines of your life did you get into neuroscience?
That happened about 15 years ago.
Oh, so that was after the addiction.
That was after the addiction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was running a foundation during the addiction. I had gone to school for coaching and psychology. But after the addiction, I got to a point where it was like, who am I outside of who I thought I was? And if I was doing what I really love, what would that be? And that was working with people in positions of influence and not only helping them achieve greater results, but helping them impact the world better. And I was looking at all the different modalities that were working. And I was deciding which I wanted. And neuroscience just spoke to me on so many different levels. It understands our nervous system. It understands our subconscious. But it has a bit of a esoteric component to it as well that I really was digging.
Yeah, we're going to get very deep into the neuroscience if you don't mind, but let's go a little bit back, right? So you're kind of like, you're addicted to this. And I mean, later you have an organization that's helping other people get out of it, right? So clearly you figured out how to get out of it. I believe you were also on the Oprah Winfrey show in regards to that as well, right?
That's correct. But I had not figured out how to get out of it at that time.
Really?
So here I was helping kids get off of addiction, and I was showing up to work every day high. And I was able to hide it. And so it wasn't until I was on that show, I went on that show really high. And it wasn't until that same night that there was a party at my house. And after the party, long story short, I went to buy more drugs and somebody put a gun to my head.
Wait, so you were on the Oprah Winfrey show talking about how to quit drugs and how you have an amazing community, but you're high on that show. And you said you couldn't even like speak at some level?
I couldn't even speak. I brought somebody with me, one of the kids that graduated from the program, and I would hand the mic over to him. I was just living with such conflict, internal conflict. Here I am. I want to do these things. There's some evidence that I can, but I had this operating system that I'm not good enough. Why me? I don't deserve it. So as far as the world saw me, they saw me as someone doing great things, but I saw myself like I was a fraud. And the more I was doing, the more I saw that. And I couldn't break the pattern.
Do you think that you had that organization to try to, like, it was maybe for yourself and you felt like you were making progress by you helping other people? Was that kind of like the relationship maybe? It's like this.
Yeah, it was very much like that. It wasn't that I was just helping myself. It was because when I was 14, I was incarcerated and I thought I contracted HIV. And I went several years of my life crying myself to sleep, believing that I had it. And psychosomatically, I would make myself sick. What that means is when you believe something, you create that within yourself. So every time I heard of a symptom, I would come down with that symptom. And it got to a point where I just wanted to know who I needed to be in order to not have it. So I made a deal with myself, a deal with God, if you will. What do I need to do in order to not be sick? And part of that deal is I needed to create something for people who are going through what I went through. And so I got into that because I thought that it was bribing God. If I do this, I'll be kept alive. But specifically, I did that because before doing that, I told you I had a mentor. And this mentor was the vice president of Seagram's. And Seagram's was the parent company to Universal. Universal owned all of the music and entertainment virtually. So here I was at a very young age working for Seagram's under the auspices of MCA Records. And I was marketing music, but we were targeting children. So I was marketing music that had a negative message, and we were promoting it to kids. And here I am thinking, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I may be making a lot of money, but A, I don't believe I'm here to do that. I don't like doing it this way. And if I keep doing it this way, something's going to happen. And I was only like 23 at the time. And I was going through all of these internal shifts, not knowing who I am, trying to figure out who I am, fear of God, fearing that like what I did in my past was so bad that I'm not going to live long. Many of my friends were killed. And so I started my charity, A, to help myself, but also to find grace. Wow, I'm kept alive to do this.
Amazing mission. I always tell people like it's truly beyond yourself, right? If you focus on the money, okay, you'll get it. But at the end of the day, is that what your purpose is on this earth? Or maybe there's something bigger and greater, right? So you took that, but maybe like, you still had some struggles with like kind of doing these things yourself. So tell us that story, right? You go on the Oprah Winfrey show, you can't even speak properly. You get a kid out there. And then you were kind of like alluding to like you went out to go get drugs right after the show, right?
Well, that night when I got home,
Yeah.
all of my friends were waiting for me at my house.
Okay.
And so we had a party, and the party was just nuts. We had strippers, we had like all of my friends, and it went on and on and on. And around 4 o'clock in the morning, everybody had left. And I had a line of cocaine that I was going to do before going to sleep, right? And as I went to go do it, I had a pit bull at the time, and pit bulls move their butts like this, right? And the line of cocaine was on the table, and the dog, his name was Frazier, came and his tail whapped it off the table. And there was carpet on the floor, and I got onto the floor trying to snort it off the floor. Wasn't enough. And so I got on the phone, tried to call my drug dealer, wasn't able to reach him. So I got into the car, and if anybody knows Miami, I went down to Overtown. Miami, Overtown is the ghetto. And I knew everyone there. And usually it's very easy to buy drugs at 4 o'clock in the morning. But for whatever reason, that morning I couldn't find anybody. But there was this one kid, I'd never seen him before. And he flagged me down. And I pulled up to him, got out of my car. And I had this thing at that time. Because I didn't believe in myself, I would always try to justify my existence by making everyone I came in contact with either smile, laugh, or feel good about themselves. So here it is, 4 o'clock in the morning. This random guy is pulling up to a 14-year-old to buy drugs. And I get out of the car and I start preaching to him, saying all these like beautiful things. You can imagine, like, if you're 14 years old, who is this guy? Like, who is he at 4 o'clock in the morning preaching to me? And I don't know if I made him nervous. I don't know what the story was, but he pulled out a gun and he put it to my head. And as he had the gun to my head, he was either trying to pull the trigger and was stuck, or he was resisting pulling the trigger.
How did you feel in that moment?
Numb. At that point, I was just like...
So you weren't scared?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was so high.
Yeah.
Like, those emotions weren't there. I did feel a moment of, if this happens, I'm fine with it. I didn't love myself. And so if this was the way my life was going to end, so be it, right? Well, the kid took my watch and he took my wallet.
Okay.
And I was the happiest person when I got back to my car, not because I was alive, but because he forgot to take the cocaine back. And it was a 20-minute ride back to my house. And I bought about 2 grams. And over the course of 20 minutes, I snorted it and smoked all of it. And so by the time I got back home, there was no drugs left. And here I am, wide awake, A, because all of this adrenaline is rushing because a kid just put a gun to my head, and B, because I just did 2 grams of blow, right? And at that time, like any drug addict, I wasn't ready to stop. And so the people who knew me trusted me. I never hurt anyone. I was just hurting myself. So I went to my next door neighbor and I was like, hey, listen, man, I have a problem. Somebody stole my wallet. There's an emergency. I need to borrow $100. Without hesitation, he gave me $100. I went back to the same exact spot where the kid put the gun to my head. He wasn't there, but I bought more drugs. And as I was driving home, I'm listening to this song by DMX. And he's having a conversation with God. And basically in the song, he's asking, why do I keep going through all this? Why do I have all this misfortune? And then he comes to this epiphany that there's something that he needed to see in order to become who he's meant to be. And in that moment, I stopped the car on the side of I-95 in Miami, I-95 and 79th Street. And I'm starting to look at myself in the rearview mirror, crying hysterically. And I'm feeling good about myself in that moment. Because for all of this time, I had called myself a liar, a cheat, a hypocrite, a fraud. But I realized that I'm none of those things. I've just been behaving that way. What is it that I needed to see in order to become who I'm meant to be? And what I needed to see is I'm not my past. I'm not my actions. Who I am lives in here. And I need to get clear of who that person is. And I needed to understand how this system works, We were taught about Christopher Columbus. We were taught about dinosaurs in school. We were never taught about ourselves, how our nervous system works, how our mind works, how to overcome anxiety, how to step into the most powerful version of ourselves, how to process emotions. And in that moment, I realized I need to understand myself better, first and foremost. And it was that night that led me on the next chapter of discovering myself, but using neuroscience as the tool.
Wow. That's amazing. So you were, I mean, there's a lot to uncover there, but it seems like you're very hyper aware of yourself. I think earlier I was telling you even about myself, like, I don't even know, like, sometimes as humans, we don't even know we have a problem. Like, you don't even know that it exists. But it seemed like you at least had a little bit of an inkling of like, hey, man, like you said, you brought up so many things, emotions, the inside beliefs. Like, it seems like you kind of had all this mapped out, or were you just like, I don't know who I am, I'm going to learn about it?
Well, I'd already been to school for psychology.
Okay.
I had already been to school for coaching.
Gotcha.
But even more important than that, I had already spent 2 years incarcerated as a kid, thinking I had AIDS, without TV, without radio, without phone, without magazine.
All you could do is think.
All you can do is think. And I was definitely a type of person that was serious about my thoughts at that time because I wanted to think my way out of being sick. And so I discovered a lot. Bruce Lee talks about knowing is not enough, you must apply. And many of us know the right thing, but knowing doesn't get us there. Like the greatest problem, the athletes I work with, the celebrities I work with, the whomever business owners that I work with is, it's not that they don't have the skills. They just don't know how to regulate their nervous system and their mind. And so it got very exciting for me. I began to understand how I do this. The people who I work with, they want to be champions. They want to be successful in their business. That's cool. We have a target. And everything I do is to rewire their nervous system and their subconscious program so that they can win.
So how did you, like, for yourself, right? How did you, like, go about rewiring yourself? What were the first steps that you took? Was it just like going into neuroscience and then just kind of putting one and one together and figuring it all out?
No, I was very fortunate. I was able to go away to Joshua Tree for a month. And during that month, it was a neuroscience breathwork program that somebody who believed in me paid for.
Wow.
I mean, I was broke at the time. And it was one of the most miserable times of my life. A, because I was withdrawing. B, I had no direction and I was still second guessing myself. But I was serious about why I was there. And so I was learning. And as I was learning, I was beginning to physiologically feel different. I was able to release a lot of what I was carrying. And I was able to recalibrate. Who am I now? What is it that I want? And those 2 steps are really important steps. A lot of us go through life carrying a lot of trauma, a lot of weight. And that weight that we carry becomes our operating system. We think, we feel through that lens. So we have to release that. And once we release it, it's like we're an empty cup. Okay, Now I can fill this cup. Who am I? What do I want? And that's what that process did for me. It gave me space and tools to recalibrate.
So one of the things you brought up was such a good point, and I think it's so tremendously valuable to a lot of the listeners listening to this, even for myself, where I started viewing myself as the behavior, like that this is my identity. For example, I'm a business owner. I have to work hard all the time. No. That's a behavior that I'm choosing to do instead of just kind of believing like, oh, this is my only purpose. I'm supposed to be a hard worker. So now I'm trying to justify my own actions, the things that I'm actually supposed to do as like, oh, no, I'm just hardworking. But in reality, that was just a behavior that I was putting on.
That's
right. And I feel like even from your perspective, you kind of hinted on that a little bit, right? And I'm sure a lot of the viewers listening to this, they have tremendous amount of years of trauma and like all these, they're 30, 40, 50 years old. They don't even realize that they have these internal issues,
Well, you've heard people say we only use 10% of our brain, right? But that's not true. We use 10% of our brain capacity, which is a lot different. What that means is when you go through your trauma, when you go through your life and you have all these experiences, it floods your mind. You're constantly overthinking. You're worried about your past. You're worried about the future, right? You don't have the clarity. And in order to create, we need to have a regulated nervous system. We need to have a clear mind. And so we overcompensate. We end up working harder because we think we need to. And so all the fat that gets cut from working, all the fat that we're carrying, we can cut it so that we can do more in less time at a higher level. And that's the name of the game. So we don't burn ourselves out.
So how do people tactically, like, let's start talking tactics. I mean, you've coached up Jamie Foxx, NFL players. You know, we went through the list. Florida Panthers. I'm sure there's a lot of more very high level people. Is it kind of like the same stuff that you do for everyone, or is it like the structure is the same? How do you like sit them down? So like, how do we provide the most amount of value to, you know, the viewers, but also even myself? Maybe there's things that you can help me with right here. You can demonstrate it. I know you're working on some really cool projects, which we would love to explore a little bit more that you're doing here in Medellin. But maybe if we can get a little bit of a tactical kind of thing.
I mean, we just simplify the whole thing.
Okay.
Like step one is we got to get clear of who you're currently operating as. And let's just call that your current identity.
Okay.
Your identity is based on how you view yourself compared to the standard of who you think you should be. Maybe mom, dad, society taught you that. So we're always in conflict because we're not living up to this idea of who we should be. And maybe we're living other people's lives. Maybe we're in relationships that we are told are ideal, but really aren't fulfilling. Or maybe we're in careers that we're thinking, you know, I'm a lawyer or I own this company, but I'm not happy, right? So whatever it is that's causing us to have that identity, we want to clear it. And then we want to get...
How do you even know that? I mean, I've had many clients, thousands of clients. I remember there was an accountant that came to us for he wanted to launch his own AI agency using our team. And we started asking him about accounting, and he was very good at it. But he told us, like, and he started crying. He's like, dude, I've been in this profession for, I think it was like 26 years. And I've never wanted to be in this profession. I only did it because my dad was an accountant, and I had pressure from my family. And that gave me goosebumps because I realized, I was like, man, this guy spent 26 of his years of his life, which is maybe half of his life, on something that it wasn't even him.
Yeah.
That's twisted, man.
Well, it's very common, right?
It's so common.
I mean, if you look at like how many people are taking anti-anxiety medication or anti-depression medication, when we have these symptoms of depression or anxiety, most people hate it, right? I don't want to have anxiety. I don't want to be depressed. Here's another perspective. We should learn to love those symptoms just like you would love the dashboard of your car working. If the dashboard of your car doesn't tell you when your gas is low, you're in trouble. If you don't get these symptoms, that's when you're in trouble. And so when people are unfulfilled or they're having anxiety or they're having depression, this is their system saying, I'm not where I need to be. Okay, so that's step one. Are you feeling amazing? Are you feeling powerful? Are you feeling fulfilled? Are you constantly waking up excited? Or are you waking up like, oh my God, I have to go do this? And maybe you're getting your dopamine hit because you're making a certain level of success happen for yourself, but you're not feeling fulfillment. And you're constantly in a state of chasing, or you're constantly in a state of worrying. These are key indicators that you're not in your top identity.
Do you feel like, I completely agree with you, but I have a different, maybe like a different, slightly different perspective on this. How do you even know that? Like, I feel like in society nowadays, we get 4,000 ads per day. We're always on our phones. We're always talking to someone. Even myself, sometimes I'm like, man, I should just like relax, like just like chill for a little bit. And I realized for quite some time, for quite a few years of my life, because I was like so much on the go on the chase, I didn't even know what was wrong with me. Yeah. So like you were saying, here's a thermostat. I don't even know if it's bad, good. You understand?
Yeah, of course I do. And that's what I was alluding to earlier.
Okay.
We aren't taught about ourselves.
Yeah.
So how do I know if I'm not happy? How do I know if I'm not living at my very best? We weren't taught that. What we do want is to ask the question, who am I when I am at my very best? And if you're feeling like this is me, well, I still think you're undervaluing yourself, because we can always grow and get better. And that's why world champions hire me, right? It's not because they don't believe they're great. It's because they want to experience the next level. So like the great assumption is to have, you know what, as good as I am today, who am I when I'm at that next level? And if you ask that question.
So, sorry, real quick. When you say who am I, earlier you said you're not your behaviors. What exactly do you mean by that then?
Well, that's my identity, right? So if you look at a clock,
Okay.
and you look at the clock and you say each of the hands represents a different aspect to who we are and how we express ourselves. 12 o'clock is our subconscious. Your subconscious is your belief system about yourself, right? It's the underlying program that accounts for 95% of your choices.
Wow.
That program affects 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock is your conscious mind. This is your thoughts and your perspectives. My self-conscious, my 12 o'clock growing up is that I'm stupid and nobody cares about me. So my 3 o'clock was, you know what? Even if you're staring at me like you're interested in me, I'm thinking to myself, he just wants me to shut the hell up.
Wow.
So 12 o'clock affects 3 o'clock, right? So we can't see beyond that belief system. And the issue with 3 o'clock...
Well, it's like you're constantly only looking to justify your subconscious brain.
That's just how it works. It's not even that we're looking for it. That's the mechanism. A equals B, right? We directly see the world through that lens. And the issue with that is your mind is like a muscle.
Okay.
We have between 20,000, 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those thoughts are the same type, same genre of thoughts as the day before. So we're constantly working that muscle in the same direction. So if I think I'm uneducated or I'm stupid or people don't love me, and in every situation I'm interpreting it through that lens, I'm building that muscle, right? And that 3 o'clock muscle is really important because it affects 6 o'clock. This is how you feel. Your feelings are everything. If you wake up and you feel powerful, you're going to do powerful things. But if you wake up and you feel like, what's the point? You're not going to do powerful things. But that's not even the biggest problem behind it. Your 6 o'clock is your emotions. And when you're in a stressed state, or let's call it a low identity, 12 o'clock,
Yep.
what's going to happen is your body's going to produce a lot of what?
Cortisol. Yeah.
And adrenaline. These are addictive chemicals. And so like nobody wants to be angry all the time, but we fall into that as a default. No one wants to be stressed all the time, but we fall into that as a default. It's addictive. It's a setting. And that 6 o'clock affects 9 o'clock. This is the quality of our actions, right? Or inactions. Oftentimes people procrastinate. Why do they procrastinate? What's the feeling? What's the thought? What's the underlying belief? Right? And 9 o'clock, again, the actions, inactions that we take affects 11:59, which is our outcomes. And our outcomes is how we view ourselves. What do I mean by that? Well, if 12 o'clock is my belief system, it's on the opposite side of the clock as 11:59, right? But it's literally right next to it. So I keep saying to myself, why am I in the same type of relationships? Why can't I break past this tax bracket? And we begin to believe this is what we're capable of. So it becomes a cycle. So when I talk about identity, I'm not just talking about your feelings. I'm talking about the whole system. And so when we shift identities, when we upgrade our identity, when we launch our new identity, right? When we launch that identity, what we're saying is, this is what I want. I want to make this amount of money. I want my business to go here. I want this type of relationship. When we do that, we say to ourselves, well, who do I need to be? What's my subconscious? What do I need to believe, right? I believed that I was stupid and I was not lovable. In order to hit that goal, what do I need to believe about myself? I need to believe that I'm powerful. I need to believe that the world wants to see me win. And I need to believe that I can, right? And so what I do is, and this is my work, we exercise our 3 o'clock, we exercise our 6 o'clock, and we create new 9 o'clocks. And as we do that, we begin to not hope to get those results. We begin to feel it here. And we begin to say, wow, I am really producing this. And that's, you know, I'm abbreviating the process, even though it's a very simple process, but it's very simple. Not necessarily easy, but to shift into your most powerful.
So 12 o'clock is subconscious mind, was inside already, right? Or like, and that's what does that come from? Society, environment?
It comes from your upbringing.
Yeah, for the most
what
part.
You've developed. It's a belief that you have about yourself, about the challenge ahead of you.
But you can always change that.
But that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's neuroplasticity. Everything can be changed.
Everything can be changed.
And we aren't taught that.
Wouldn't you think that like older people who, you know, like that saying, you can't teach old dogs new tricks?
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty true? You can, but no, it's not really.
Oh, you can teach an old dog new trick.
Well, like, okay, what about that concept? And you're the expert here. So, man, I can't remember what the name was, but it's like your brain just like starts to become stronger and stronger with your old behaviors and patterns. It
Oh
becomes
yeah, you built
harder.
that muscle, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's a lot harder for someone who's like been there decades and decades.
Yeah. I mean, I'm living proof, right?
Yeah.
I was 35 when I overcame my addiction and I got into this level of my life, right? But not only am I living proof, the people who I work with.
Yeah.
And so like when I qualify who I work with, and it's a major thing, when I qualify who I work with, I want to know that they're willing to do what it takes, right? That they're excited about it. Because if they follow the protocol, they're going to rewire it. It's just a freaking program, man.
Dang.
Every program could be rewired. And when we believe it's harder because we're older, guess what else we believe?
So
It's harder because we're older, which means we fall out of it. I'll tell you something really quick. My mentor used to say to me, don't keep track of your age. And I said, why? And he said, well, here's a story. A plane went down in Colorado years ago, and 10 people survived. They believed that they probably only had a couple hours because it was becoming nighttime and it was freezing cold outside. They can't survive the cold, right? And so they had 2 flares. They were going to shoot them up to get help, but they needed to space them out. They didn't want to blow their load all at once, right? And so the guy keeping track of time would look at everyone and say, 10 minutes would go by. He would look at everyone and say, that's 1 minute. 20 minutes would go by. He would say, that's 2 minutes. 30 minutes, 3 minutes. What was he doing? He was creating hope that they had more time, right? They were eventually rescued, but one person died. The guy keeping track of the time. And so what you believe, your 12 o'clock, is going to affect your thoughts. Now, if I believe we're running out of time, watch this. If I believe I'm running out of time, I'm having those thoughts, what does that do? Shortens my breath, right? 70% of the waste in our body is released through our breathing. I'm holding my breath. I'm holding
not the bathroom.
Huh?
Not the bathroom, but it's carbon dioxide. Like we think that, the waste is released from sweating.
Oh, no, going back to that. No, 70% of the waste in our body is released through our breathing. Just going back to what we weren't taught as kids, not only is 70% of the waste in our body released through our breathing, whatever your psychological or emotional state is going to affect what? If you're stressed, you breathe like this. Opposite. You breathe like this.
So tight, yeah.
We hold our breath, right? When you're happy, we breathe more fluid. The breath also is not happening in the past, and it's not happening in the future. So if I'm working with a football player and he just dropped the ball and then he comes back into the huddle and he's freaked out over what he just did, his breath is going to indicate that. He's going to hold his breath. Not only is he going to hold his breath, his body's going to be tight. So imagine this. You're holding your breath and your body's tight and you have to go run a route. Or you're holding your breath and your body's tight and you have to go make a presentation in front of an entire boardroom. You beat yourself. You sabotage yourself.
How do you overcome that part? Because that's something that I do struggle with. I've gotten a lot better, but I feel like I still definitely have that, right? The stress, anxiety, what that translates into, me speaking quicker, me just like trying to move fast. And I completely agree with the breathing part. Sometimes it's like, oh man, I have to take a deep breath and it feels so good, but maybe 2 hours have gone by. And now, according to what you said, 70% of waste, if that is not exerted, that means it's inside, which probably means maybe my lifespan could potentially be going lower, right? How could you help me get over this stress thing? Is it like I'm just trying to control that outcome, right? Is it just that, or what exactly is going on?
No, in fact, we don't have to go into the past to get there. What we need to do is get clear of what's most important to you. What's your goal, right? And we have to see how the current identity is affecting you from achieving it. But once I know what your new goal is or what's most important to you, then we just have to wire that in. And there's specific exercises that we do are simple. They're simple. They're so easy. And the problem with it is they're so easy that pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know it because it takes away their business.
Takes their money away.
Right? And so, but what we would do is we would get clear of what your target is. We would get clear of your top identity.
Is it like a money target? Is it a business
Any target?
Really?
Yeah. If you want to have a great relationship, well, what are you doing to self-sabotage it? If you want to make more money, how are you getting in your own way? Again, it's not your talent.
Okay, I have one for you, if you don't mind. Gym. I don't go to the gym, even though I think that it's important, but maybe I believe that it's not important. I know it's like something that I have to do, but I just don't really. I'm like, yeah, I'm just hardworking. Remember, I'm like my identity. I'm working too hard right now. I'll skip the gym today.
Yeah. That's very common, right? I remember this number at one point. 90% of the people who sign up for gyms don't go on a regular basis. If they did, there would be no room.
Crazy.
Right? And so what's the question?
So the question is, like, I'm, in some ways people would say, like, I'm exceptional in some ways, right? Like, I'm definitely not perfect. I definitely have my flaws, but like in business wise, I've achieved some pretty good numbers, made multiple millions and millions, 8 figures, 120 people that I have, who work for me and with me. But when it comes to the gym, I'm like, oh, I'm not even average. I'm like below average, right? And in this one area of my life, I'm considered by other people pretty good. But in this area, I'm like below average. And then here's the funny part. When I was back in high school, I put the same mindset to the gym. I was in the gym 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was in there like I would eat in there. I'm just in there, right? And then now I'm like, man, I don't even want to go for 10 minutes. I'm the same person. What happened?
Well, I said a couple of things. I've heard you say a couple of things. One, you excel in this and you don't excel here. Mm-hmm. That's a belief.
Okay.
Right? And the other thing that you said was, I'm crushing it here. I don't have the time for this. That's another belief. There may be a belief that you can't have your cake and eat it too, but you can. Mm-hmm. But what's occupying up here that's pulling your energy, that's not allowing you to feel powerful to go to the gym. I imagine if you had less on your plate, more clarity, making just as much, if not more, and you had more time, you'd feel powerful and you would go to the gym. And so the question is, in that space, what's your identity? How do you view yourself? If you imagine that you're knocking it out the park in business, in your relationship, and in the gym, in 2 words, how would you describe yourself?
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable, right? Okay. So on a scale of 1 through 10, how unstoppable do you feel right now, altogether? I know you're unstoppable in your business, right? You're crushing it, right? But you can have your cake and eat it too.
Correct.
And so like if you on a scale of 1 through 10 were completely 360 degrees unstoppable, what's your current score, 1 through 10? 10, completely unstoppable. 1, can't do shit.
About a 7.
A 7, right? Okay. 7's not so bad, right? So there's some tweaking that needs to get you to a 10.
Yeah, I feel happy. I mean, I'm a pretty happy guy. Even if something major happens, I find the good in it. But yeah, definitely you're right. Like there's some elements like me not potentially going to the gym. I feel lethargic sometimes. I feel a little slow sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I figure out a way to try to be happy.
Yeah, so we would just go through the process. The first part is like whatever's causing you to have that belief that you can't have your cake and eat it too. Whatever's causing you to say, you know what, I'm doing great here, but I don't have to go here. Maybe procrastinating. Whatever that 12 o'clock is that's causing the 3 o'clock, just fine. It's causing the feelings, maybe tired, which is causing the 9 o'clock, I'm not going to go to the gym, which is causing the 11:59. Why can't I get this done, right? And that constantly being reinforced. That whole cycle, all we need to do is release whatever that's there, and that comes from a quick process, then get recalibrated, unstoppable. How does unstoppable think? How does unstoppable feel? And we begin to wire that into your practice. And we do micro efforts every single day, less than 5 minutes a day.
Really?
So, of course.
What does that look like?
You stop 5 times a day, your phone goes off, right?
Okay.
There's a notification, and you simply do the AIM exercise.
The AIM, yeah, you were telling me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the AIM exercise is an exercise that rewires and regulates your nervous system, clears what you're holding on to, helps you get clear of what's important, and then wires your nervous system and mind to go achieve it. So it's like really short. It takes about 1.5 minutes to do it each time. But each time you do it, you take an action. So if you look at 11:59, right, those are your outcomes. Well, if you're taking new action each day from this elevated state, you start getting new results. And if there's no results, guess what you feel? A lot better, a lot stronger, more energy. So the first part is clearing out. The second part is really getting that clarity. And then the third part is the exercises to rise. It's very simple. It's not hard. And the problem is a lot of people believe because if you look at Freud's model of psychology, a lot of people believe that they have to go through this whole process with the psychologist. And sometimes that takes years. And they don't want to do that. And so they kind of say, it is what it is. You know, this is who I am. But the simplicity of it is, it doesn't take that.
And that's what you teach in your program and what you do.
That's all my program is about.
Really?
It's all about like, who am I in my best identity, and what is it that I want, and how do I wire my nervous system and my mind to get out of my own way so I can create that success, whether it's in relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's in sport, whether it's in any aspect of.
Can you give it maybe an example of maybe a world-class athlete, world champion? Even you've coached up Novak Djokovic, right? So maybe you can use one of their examples. Maybe you don't have to disclose the name, but what were some of the things that they were struggling with? Because I feel like a lot of the people watching this, I feel like a lot of people celebritize people over and beyond that they actually are. At the end of the day, we're all flesh and blood. We're all the same, human beings. So from your perspective, working with some of the world.
My job was to understand his 12 o'clock. What's his current identity, right? And then as I understand his identity, I begin to understand his image of himself, what he thinks about the possibility of him becoming world champion, and how he thinks other people perceive him. All three of those things are really important, especially how other people perceive him, because he's going to be walking down an aisle in front of 30,000 people with millions of people across the world watching, right? So I begin to understand his 12 o'clock, his current identity. And then I begin to understand what he wants. He wants to win the world championship. And for that to happen, what's his top identity? Who does he need to become, right? We want to launch that identity. Right? Part of that is under the current identity. You see, you just shook my hand because I triggered you.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't say I'm about to go shake his hand.
Right.
Something happened. When we're in our current identity, we have all these frameworks of how things should be, and we're constantly being triggered. This was an easy trigger. We just shook hands. But sometimes people will go into a board meeting and all of a sudden they'll smell something, hear something, feel something. Sure. And before you know it, they're down that spiral. Right. So I needed to know his 12 o'clock. I needed to know what his triggers were so I can teach him how to rewire those triggers. Right. And I needed to know what.
How did you discover that? Just questions, your exercises, like.
Well, that's my whole protocol.
Yeah.
It's like really beginning to understand how he's getting in his own way. And there's a whole series of things that I do to get to that point.
Interesting.
And then we got clear of what his championship identity was, right? And so here we are, the night of the fight, and it's in the Berkeley Center in New York, and we're walking down the aisle, and I look at him and I say, "Hey man, how you feeling?" I asked him that because he was like this. Like he was freaked out. And his response to me was, "I'm freaked out." That was amazing that he told me that, because now I know exactly where he is. If I'm the GPS, I know where he wants to go. I need to know where he is. And I quickly took him through a process within 50 feet of the ring to shift. All I did.
Wait, this is like with the cameras and all, like
everything live right on us. Right on us.
Oh, wow.
That's how simple it is. We can shift. And if there's exercises that we can do on demand to shift, which are great. We need that.
Do you mind going into one of them? Just like high level.
I mean, I'll go into all of it. Okay. I don't mind. But the same exercise we can do every single day. And not only will it get us ready for what's in front of us, it can completely begin to rewire our system. Not to just step up for a specific event, but to actually know this is who I am. We can change that identity. You want to know?
You said 1.5 minutes, right? It takes about?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Well, we did the AIM method.
Okay.
Okay, so step 1 is awareness.
Okay.
If I'm not sure of something, I can't do anything about it, right? So I want to call to my attention what's going on. I asked him how he felt. He was aware that he felt nervous. Good. Step 1, we know what's in front of us. Step 2, acceptance. If he doesn't like that he's feeling nervous, if he wishes he wasn't, what's that going to do? It's going to cause him to be in his head, right? So we have to accept it, right? When we accept things, we don't use our mental energy fighting it. We accept it. Step 3, intention. What is it that you want? He says, I want to go out there and fight my very best fight. Step 4, good. What's the identity? What's the mindset? Calm and fluid. Step 5, what's the breath? What's the thoughts? And we literally shifted the breathing. We shifted the thoughts. We shifted the body language so the oxygen can flow to each cell and each organ, and everything that he was holding on to with anxiety, he began to channel it. So you can see him walking. He's like, before you know it, he's energized. He's confident. His mind is clear. The first time I met Novak Djokovic, 2014, it was the night before he was playing Rafael Nadal at the Miami Open.
Both world-class tennis players.
I didn't know much about tennis at the time, but I do know my stuff, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it was the day I found out my daughter was going to be born. Like I found out we were pregnant. So I was already in this place of like, nothing can stop me, right? And I think that nothing can stop me, that identity of nothing can stop me, gave me a certain level of confidence because I knew who he was, right? To go to him with complete bravery. Like, I didn't need you to like me, but I know how to help you win, right? And the first thing I said to him, I looked at him and I said, you're never going to be as good as Rafael Nadal. And he looked at me like this.
What are you talking about?
And then I went on and said, you're never going to be as good as Rafael Nadal at being Rafael Nadal. The key is to know who you are at your best, and let's wire that in. And that's exactly what he did. And the funny thing about it, he went on and won the next day, right? But I was talking to a good friend who loved tennis, and he happened to like Nadal. And I said to him, not only is he going to lose tomorrow, Djokovic has this it factor. I know that it factor. I grew up around Sugar Ray Leonard. I grew up around world champions.
Really?
That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I grew up in Miami. Angelo Denti was his coach. I worked with Angelo Denti boxing as a kid also. And I said to him, not only is Nadal going to lose tomorrow, and I'm talking trash here, I said, he's going to lose the next 4 times they play. I didn't know if that was true or not, but it happened to be true.
Right. Well, you kind of put that in belief in his head, like, oh, this.
No, I put that in my friend's head.
Exactly.
I mean, but there is that warfare, right? That psychological warfare. And there is ways not only to manipulate ourselves,
Right.
but to manipulate a conversation in sales and other aspects. There's levels to it, right?
Wow. Amazing. Well, thank you very much for, kind of sharing this stuff. I know you're doing some amazing work. You're launching new, like a new kind of program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, so my specialty, we talked a lot about the subconscious
Right.
nervous system, but oftentimes people are bringing me in to help them access flow state on demand, right? And so what is flow state? Flow state is when you're completely in that space of optimal performance. You know it. You hear people say he's in the zone or she's in the zone, and they're able to nail every shot, right? So flow state, the scientific term for it is transient hypofrontality. What that means is the sudden slowing down of the inner critic. When that happens, when that inner critic is offline, the body produces healthy endorphins, the brain waves are slower. And so like if you've been cultivating a talent throughout the course of your life, you're not canceling your talent by your fears of like what's going to happen. You're completely immersed in the moment, and all your gifts that you've been developing are front and center, right? And so we know and we're able to measure when someone's in flow state, but we're also able to know how to get people into flow state. So there are 4 channels. And so if flow state is transient hypofrontality, what's the opposite of that? Transient hyperfrontality, the speeding up of the front cerebral cortex. This is anxiety. The same 4 channels that put people into that place of flow, when misused, and most people don't even know what they are, put us into anxiety. So there's a program that we have online. It's not just for people with anxiety. It really is to upgrade their identity, to launch their new identity, but really helps people get out of that old identity and into that space of optimization.
Yeah, and I think it goes way beyond just the identity, just to say that, because it's like relationships. You attract better partners, friends, family, romance, money. Like there's so many different factors that go into who your identity actually is. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there's a total ROI on this basically. It's not just like, oh, you're just gonna be like happy and just like dance around. No, you're literally gonna upgrade your life in every single way.
100%. And I would definitely say, when you scale a business or you build a business or you train for a fight without working on your identity, it's the highest form of self-sabotage. You can get lucky and you can begin to feel it along the way, but you want to hedge your bet, right? And the way you hedge your bet is to really upgrade your stuff.
Especially for the people watching this right now, right? A lot of the viewers here are people who are 9-to-5ers, corporate workers, employees, always used to getting a paycheck every single 2 weeks, right? Something I call a, bi-monthly tranquilizer. And now they want to step into an identity of being a business owner, of being someone who actually commands respect, attracts a team, attracts money. But without them without them even thinking that, oh, I need to actually shift my belief. Instead of trying to find this new Facebook ad or trying to find this new little tactic or strategy about business, none of that stuff will ever even work if you don't upgrade that identity.
That's right. And I know we're talking about words, but you said command your respect. Just to play on that, it's not just about commanding your respect, it's embodying your respect. Right?
Being the person.
If I try to command respect, now I just made you something.
So true.
When I embody that respect, I function in this frequency, if you want to call it that, but in this state where people are just drawn to me. They want to be working with me. They want to be around me. And that's what it's about.
Amazing.
How do I embody it?
Yeah. Any last words for the viewers listening to this?
I mean, you're here once, right? Like, and what's in your heart can't be convinced. You can't convince yourself who you love, what you're passionate about. So if you're doing something that you love, the key is to regulate your nervous system and your mind to make sure you see it through. It's meant to happen. Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself. Awesome. Where can people find you?
They can find me on all social media at Mike J. Rosenfeld, or they can go to my website, centrada.co.
Awesome. Well, guys, we will link the notes. We will link, his socials and his website down below. If you like this episode, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.
So much for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching.